Hey guys, so before this video starts, I did want to add a trigger warning. Throughout this video, Will and I are talking to you about everything leading up to the birth of our baby, and while most of it is positive, there were some parts of the birth experience that was quite traumatic for me. And if traumatic birth experiences are a trigger for you, or if you're an expectant mum and you don't want to add any stress or anxiety to your current birth journey, then there's no need to continue watching this video, and I wish you all the best of luck on your positive birth journey. Where should we start?
We have a baby boy.
So luckily
healthy boy.
A healthy baby boy. In the last video, I was pretty distressed because that's when we found out that he was suddenly in the 50th percentile and dropped down to like the 10th to 15th percentile, and I was just getting monitored weekly. Our obstetrician really worked with us to try and push out the pregnancy as far as possible so that when our little baby was born, he'd be as close to full term as possible. So I started having contractions.
So for about an hour now, I just have like lower belly pain. It feels like period cramps. And then my belly started tightening and hurting. So I don't know if these are contractions or if I just ate something bad, I'm not sure.
Yeah, it turns out that it was just false labor. They're just Braxton Hicks contractions. The obstetrician said, that's great, that's your body preparing you for labor. I had to take a little break because this little guy started having the hiccups. That day we were meant to go to the hospital at 5 p.m. And then I said to Will, okay, let's have one last brunch together before our baby arrives. We arrived at the place where we were eating brunch, and then I asked if I could use the restroom. I went to the restroom and my water broke in the restroom. I think.
What did we decide to do?
I called the midwife and she said to me, okay, well, can you keep track of your contractions and then give me an update within an hour, because you kind of have to count your contractions until they're a bit closer and you're in active labor, and then you go to the hospital. So I was pretty relaxed about it.
So I think my water just broke in the bathroom before. I'm timing my contractions now. I'm gonna call the midwife in an hour. But I'm feeling okay. Pain is 2 out of 10. Baby's coming soon.
What were you thinking when I told you my water broke?
Are you sure? Are you sure we should be finishing lunch and not going to the hospital?
We went home and the contractions were starting to get closer. The app kept telling me, you better pack your hospital bags and go to the hospital. So
it said go to the hospital now.
So I called the midwife again and she said, all right, come to the hospital as soon as you can.
On our way to the hospital now. Might be the last car ride before the baby seat there is filled.
Arrived at the hospital, contractions were getting stronger and stronger. At first it was just like period cramps, like totally fine, thought I could deal with it. And then as the contractions got stronger, it started feeling like period cramps plus back pain. And then as it got stronger, it felt like period pain and someone has just broken a bone in my back and I can't breathe. And the contractions were just really more intense than I thought. I really thought that I could just go through this, maybe I wouldn't even need any pain relief. The nurse actually came in and I asked her, can I have a Panadol? He laughed at me.
What's Panadol gonna do?
I thought maybe the Panadol was enough.
She's probably in the lunchroom telling everyone else and having a laugh.
She did look at me like strangely, like, are you sure you want a Panadol? And then she came up with gas and she said, why don't you try this instead?
That doesn't work. I tried it.
I feel like
I think the machine was faulty or something.
You could taste it though, right? Like,
yeah, it was on, but it just didn't seem to have much of a effect.
And I was like really doing a lot of breathing exercises through the whole, through all the contractions, and up until that point I just couldn't breathe anymore. I was clenching my fists, I was shaking, my eyes were closed, and I just could not take the pain. I think by this time I was like, I don't know, 5 or 6 hours into labor already. So I've been doing it for 5 or 6 hours and I just could not take the pain anymore. And that's when I asked for an epidural. I just felt like if I didn't get the epidural now, I would have absolutely no strength to push later. I would probably even faint because I just could not handle the pain anymore. And then the
Anaesthetist.
Anesthesis.
Anaesthetist?
Let's just call her the girl that was administering the epidural for me. And I basically had to like sit on the edge of my bed and lean over as far as I could so she could see my spine. And then it was meant to be administered like right in the middle of my back. So for some reason she couldn't get the middle of my back. I think when she first administered the epidural, I could feel everything on my right side. She said my back was quite bony and it was hard for her to figure out the difference between like bone and ligament. Is that what she said?
Yeah.
She had to take the epidural out and do it again. And she did this 3 times. So I had to sit through all these contractions while she administered the epidural 3 times. And on the 3rd time, she was like, I'm confident that it's in the middle of your back and it's working now. I just wasn't sure anymore because I had been in so much pain that I just didn't know whether or not the epidural was working. I was like, I think it's working. And she was like, okay. She kind of like left the room. But every time I was having contractions, I could still feel the pain and I was still reacting to it really badly. And then I think one of the midwives called her back in and said, look, it's not working. And she had to give me like a really strong dose of epidural. Continued to have contractions for another like, I don't know, 6 hours or something. It was like a 12-hour labor. And then by that time the obstetrician came in and he's like, look, it's been 12 hours and now suddenly baby's heart rate is dropping and it doesn't look like he's coming down anytime soon. His head's actually stuck. And you're not dilating as we expected, so if we wait any longer I'm just going to be really worried for the health of this baby, so we need to have an emergency C-section. I remember feeling really scared for our baby, and it's hard because I didn't want to make the wrong last-minute decision and then have to live with that forever, you know. So you just have to trust the experts when they come in and tell you something's wrong.
Yeah, you said there's more risk if baby stayed in there and we tried for natural, so I think listen to what he said.
So even though I was you know, I was scared about it having a C-section because that's not what we planned, I still wanted to do whatever we could to make sure that our baby arrived safe and sound. So of course I'm going to say yes. And then a new anesthesiologist, a new person who was administering my epidural started his shift and he came in, and I was trying to explain to him that the last girl had issues administering my epidural and that I could still kind of feel pain on the right side of my body, and she was giving me a stronger dose of epidural than normal, but I could still, I swear I could still feel the pain. And he was listening to me, but I don't know if he completely believed me either. He was just kind of like, look, it's standard procedure, you'll be fine, I'll make sure that you're completely numb during the C-section, and this happens all the time, like you'll be completely fine. I was quickly whisked away into the operating theatre while Will was getting changed into his scrubs. How did you feel when they told you that I suddenly had to have a C-section?
It's more like just checking on you to see if you're okay, and just said, you know, it's for the baby and it's what doctor recommends, safest ways.
Yeah, sweet. Will was trying to make me smile, and I'd be happy when I wasn't having contractions, and then when I was having contractions I'm like, I can't have this right now. But then suddenly I was whisked away into the operating theatre, and the person administering my epidural was giving me a top-up so that it would last through the C-section, and he did like a test to see if I could still feel different parts of my body the same way that I could like have sensation on like my face. So he would touch my face and then touch other parts of my body and be like, does this feel the same, does that feel the same? And then eventually got to the point where I was like, oh, I think I am, like, I think it's numb, I think it's okay. I couldn't feel anything, I could just feel pressure, but it wasn't pain. So I was confident then that the epidural was working. Suddenly the doctor said, okay, now you're going to feel a lot of pressure, probably the most pressure you'll feel through the whole C-section, so just brace yourself for that. And at that moment I was still numb, I couldn't feel pain, but I could definitely feel the pressure, and it felt like someone got a plunger and sucked this baby like right out of my belly, like plonk, and then the baby came out, and then we heard crying. It's such a surreal experience because we've been dreaming about meeting our baby for so long, And even though we've been through so much together, up until this point it still just felt like a dream. And then all of a sudden a little baby is placed on your chest, and words just like can't even express the immense love you suddenly feel for this tiny, tiny little human. So,
for me it's like a bit odd because like, he comes out, he doesn't really look like a baby. He looks, it looks like a bit like a little alien doll or something. It's a funny colour, it's a funny shape. Doesn't look like a little human yet.
And also because his head was stuck inside of me, his face was completely bruised, so he was really, really purple. And his head was like a cone shaped because he was stuck in there. He was stuck in there real good. You went off to cut the umbilical cord?
Yeah. The nurses there handed me the pair of scissors, and it just feels like a little octopus calamari sort of texture.
Calamari.
Yeah, a bit rubbery, and just cut through, and it's not like a clean cut. To cut through once and then have to finish a little bit off at the end.
The scissors weren't sharp enough.
I think, you know, at that time you're just tired and you're like, just gotta do one job, do it properly.
Yeah, we were really tired because I was in labour from like lunchtime, and then he was born at 1:10 a.m. the next day. So it had been like a whole 12 hours. And on top of that, our obstetrician is absolutely amazing. Like, he knew that I had surgery for my endometriosis, and he said, look, while you're here, I'm just going to check everything, see if there's any growth there, and to help us assess whether or not it'd be easy for us to try again for a baby in the future. He also looked at my scarring and removed some keloids as well, so I got like a 3-in-1 surgery while he was there. So I really appreciate that. Our obstetrician's like absolutely amazing and so thorough and so thoughtful. Yeah, after the magic happened was the part of my pregnancy where I'm still mentally a bit traumatized from it, to be honest. After they've put our baby boy on my chest, Will and I were just kind of like relishing in happiness and looking at him and feeling so in love with him. And then suddenly I looked over at Will and I said, I think I can feel some pain on the right side of my body. And then he said, should I call someone? Because the guy that was looking after my epidural, he was kind of like at the back of the room. And I was like, yeah, I think you should need to call someone. And then you called the guy to come over to top off my epidural. So he topped it up and he said it's going to take 10 to 15 minutes. And that 10 to 15 minutes was the most horrible, agonizing pain I've ever felt in my life, because I was still open on the operating theatre and I was screaming. I said I could feel the pain, I could feel everything, and I think, I don't know what I was thinking. I was just trying to look at Felix.
Look at baby Felix.
You were really trying to calm me down, and you told me to just look at Felix. I kept looking at him and thinking, everything's gonna be okay because you're already out of my body now, and if anything happens to me, at least he's here already. So I was just trying to bear the pain, and then I'm pretty sure 10 or 15 minutes passed because finally I was numb again and I could only feel pressure. And they continued to close me up, and then when they were stitching me up I could start feeling pain again, and again it was on the right side of my body. I could feel them like stitching me up with the stitches. I could actually feel the stitches like one by one, and when I told them I could feel this pain, my obstetrician's like, okay, I'm going to put local anesthesia in this area as well, just because she could feel it. And then after that it was numb, and then they stitched me up. But because of that whole ordeal, I guess my blood pressure just went like through the roof, and my temperature was really, really high as well. So instead of being able to go back to the room with you, I was wheeled away to recovery bay. I didn't know why I was in recovery. I thought, oh, okay, this is probably standard procedure. Maybe I'll be in recovery for a little bit and then I get to see my baby and my husband. But next thing you know, I had been there for 4 hours. I honestly kept saying to the like really lovely staff that were hanging out with me and talking to me and trying to keep me calm, that I was feeling okay. I'm like, I actually feel okay, and I really just said that so I could see you guys. I'm like, I'm actually feeling okay, guys, like I'm fine, can I go to my room? But apparently my blood pressure was really high and my temperature was really high, and they're worried that my body was trying to fight off an infection. Is that what they said?
Until one of the midwives came and said that it'd probably be a good idea to take him to see you. I think that was a really good idea, because as soon as we got across to see you, your blood pressure dropped pretty much straight away.
Yeah. Were you there?
Yeah.
I forgot for a second. Unfortunate that we had some hiccups and it wasn't what I expected, but Felix is here, so there's a happy ending. And I'm really, really grateful for you. And
you'll do it all over again.
Yes. That is our birth story, and let's hope that Felix will watch this one day and know how much his parents love him.